Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Pathways to Perform. This is your host, Kiesha Lalama. Joining me today is an extremely special human being, and he is also a dear friend. His star shines so bright. He has worked in almost every single facet that you could possibly imagine in the performing arts arena. You may recognize him from a little television show called So You Think You Can Dance. You may recognize him from Broadway. You may recognize him from a national tour that came through your home city. You also may recognize him from television and film. He is amazing. He's everywhere. He's doing the thing. He's a great guy, and he's here. I'm so excited. Please welcome NeilHaskell.
Woo! How you doing?
I'm so great. It's good to see you. How are you?
Amazing intro. Thank you so much. You're so sweet.
So when we start these conversations, I really like to begin at the very beginning. So I'm interested in learning more about how you were introduced to performing arts and, specifically dance first, I'm sure.
Sure. I followed a friend to dance class when I was 5 years old, and I was like, oh, this is fun. And, it was one of those little tap ballet things. And I just continued that all the way through middle school and high school. And when I was about 15, I started doing more intensive ballet things, which sort of transitioned my dancing into a more like professional track. I would spend 3 summers in high school at Chautauqua Institution, training in ballet 7 days a week for 7 weeks a summer. And then I went to Point Park University. I had some pretty awesome teachers there. Yeah. And then after freshman year of college, even during freshman year of college, I started taking a bus to New York and auditioning just to see what it was like. And I ended up booking Times They Are Changin', which was one of Twyla Tharp's Broadway shows. And so I ended up moving to New York between freshman and sophomore year.
What was it like to walk in rehearsal at 19 years old, working on your first Broadway show with the iconic Twyla Tharp?
It was crazy. They called me and hired me on a Monday, and they're like, "Can you be in New York tomorrow?" And I was like, "I need to ask my parents first of all." And then I was like, "Can I come on Wednesday instead of Tuesday?" And they're like, "Sure, fine." And so I fly into New York at 7 a.m. I go to a costume fitting somewhere on the east side, and then I take a cab up to Harlem where we were rehearsing. They had rented out like a theater space at one of the city university schools up there. And it had like the whole stage was like a sprung floor, kind of like gymnastics floor with Marley on it. And there was like a trampoline in the front, trampoline in the back. And like they had like the whole set built in this separate theater. And I walk in and I was just like, oh, wow, this is amazing. Just like wide-eyed at me, and I got hired a month before preview started. So they were already doing like runs of the show and then like tweaking things and changing choreography and then running the show again in the afternoon. So I got there and I got to watch a run of the show, and they were like, cool, watch this person. It was actually Marty Thomas.
Wow.
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I was watching him, and they were like, that's the track you're going to be doing. Just watch it, take notes, try to start learning it, and then we'll just rehearse you and teach you on stage when we're done with the run or whatever. And 4 days later, I'm up on that stage doing a run of the show.
And so, with that being your first Broadway show, you have to have such wonderful memories. Is there one that stands out because it was your first big Broadway debut at 19?
Sure. Yeah. I started the show on stage. There was like a sheer curtain, and then in the back of on the upstage side of the stage, there was like there were 4 panels, and I started hiding behind one of those panels. And so, but I could like peek around and like see everything, and like the curtain in front was like pretty sheer. And so I could like see the audience filling in, and just like, I remember having like like the most intense butterflies I've ever felt, and just being like just thinking about the word Broadway and being like, as cheesy as that sounds, just being like, wow, this is it. This is cool. And so just hearing that first note and just being on the stage and like sort of peeking through a crack was like pretty amazing.
And so that seems like it was a defining moment for you. Was that it? Was that the moment where you knew Broadway was definitely something you wanted to continue to do?
Yeah, I mean, I had packed up everything and moved to the city, and I was like, great, this is my career now. Mind you, the show closed a month later, but yeah, no, a couple months before that, I was working at Pittsburgh CLO, and that was my first step into like an equity production, like a professional union shows, and that was sort of like, wow, this is really cool. And I was around a cast of, most of the ensemble had all gone to different amazing theater universities around the country, and I was like, wow, you guys are really talented. Like this is amazing. And so I was like, cool. So I need to be able to sing like him. I need to be able to keep dancing like him. I need to be able to act like her. I need to like, and so I would just like try to figure out like what I could like pick and choose from everybody, because most of my training was specifically in dance. I had sung. I don't think I had ever taken an acting class at that point in my life. And yeah, so I just had to be like, cool, what can I learn from everybody around me? And
is attributed to your intellectual curiosity. That's what this comes down to. I heard you say that you're watching other performers in the room. You weren't worried about it. It wasn't competition. You were in awe and you were inspired by them. And so you wanted to learn how to sing like that one, dance better like that guy, act strong like she can, or whatever it is. But your intellectual curiosity, and even with the readings, it's so important, as they say, do your homework, but I'm proud of you for that, of course. And so you fly to LA, you're auditioning for So You Think It Can Dance?
No, I auditioned in New York.
Okay, so you auditioned in New York, and how did this all come about? How did this transpire?
I knew the show existed. I had never really seen it. Like YouTube had just come around, and I don't even think they had like dance videos on it. It was mostly just like the Atlanta Grape Stomp lady. And I'd seen some clips here and there. And my mom was like, dude, you gotta audition for the show. Like you'd be amazing on it. Like all this stuff. I was like, oh, it's so corny. I don't want to do a reality show, whatever. And then like the night before the audition, I was like, I'm not doing anything tomorrow. You start out with like an improv situation where they just throw on music and they're like, number 1, go, number 2, go, number 3, go. And you just have to you have like 15 seconds to impress them. So I just did every trick in the book, jumps and flips and spins and turns and all the things. And then, that was like a 3-day process of coming back and re-auditioning and all this stuff. And then one of the producers just sort of like put me under his wing and was like, you need to be on this show, and sort of like helped push me through, and ended up doing that show that summer. So
what was your most valuable experience from that show?
I mean, I'd say opening my eyes to other guys who were much stronger at dance than I was and had better like internal artistry, and wanting to learn from them. I remember seeing Danny Tidwell dance for the first time in Vegas and being like, who is this guy? Like, this guy's amazing. Like, this is crazy. And I ended up just like following him around when we were on the show, just being like, Cool. Is that what you do? Cool. That's how you stretch? Nice. That's how you feel the music, like everything. And then when we were going on tour after the show, we were signing up. We had to have like roommates on tour and everything. And I was like, Danny, I'm your roommate. Like, there's no other way to do it. I'm absolutely your roommate. And I just wanted to learn as much as possible from him, because at that point he was the best dancer I'd ever seen in person. It was absolutely insane. Just his artistry and his musicality and all that stuff. And he ended up also, taking me under his wing and teaching me how to like move in newer ways that I hadn't moved in before. And it was pretty amazing. He was awesome. So
that's so special.
Yeah.
And so after So You Think You Can Dance, where did you head to next? What door opened for you?
Well, I was on tour with that. I got a call from my agent, who I had just started working with right before I left for So You Think. And I had an audition for a MTV film. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I had never, they're like, you need to like put yourself on tape. And like, this is 2007. I think somebody might have had like, oh God, what did people have before like iPhones? It was like the vertical video things that were like HD or whatever. I don't know. So you had to like pick
those. I had one.
Didn't we all? It was
a flip cam.
Flip cam, yes. I
Yes.
put myself on tape with like 3 different scenes with a flip cam. Not doing anything. Like I had never, at that point in my career, I had never taken an acting class. So I was like, cool, let me just have fun and like be the goofy kid. And I ended up getting a callback for that while we were on tour, and the callback landed on a day we had a day off between cities. And I begged them to let me fly to LA and fly back for the next show. And I went and auditioned, and it ended up being a musical movie called The American Mall. It was in the same vein and produced by the same people who did like High School Musical. So it was like, just like, again, a very amazing learning experience. I got to work with some amazing actors, and the director was amazing, and you just learned everything. I tried to take everything in I could, and so yeah, we filmed it. That's in the winter of 2008, and then I moved back to New York in the middle of March, and then in April I ended up booking Altar Boys off Broadway, and I performed in that for almost an entire year.
That was one of my highlights in New York City, was coming to see you in that show.
Oh, it was so fun. I think I was so bad.
No, you were not so bad. And
I was not so good.
Well, what I love about it is that, so I'm seeing this evolutionary story of you transitioning from this dancer only, really, to, I want to learn how to sing. And now I'm going to act in this MTV movie. I'm just going to jump in. And now I'm going to Altar Boys, which is so much singing. Yes, moving and dancing, but not a dance show. No. And so to see you transition that way and evolve and continue to develop is really quite impressive. I remember watching going, I didn't know he could sing.
Well, I remember when my agent got me the audition, I turned it down because I was like, oh, that sounds super scary. I had known that like Tyler Maynard had done the show and all that. And like, I just knew how amazing of a singer he was. And me being like, well, I can't do that. There's no way. And just remembering there's like tight harmonies and all this stuff. And like, it's like, and I had a friend who was also going in for the role that I was going in for. He's like, dude, you are perfect for this role. You need to just go. And I was like, well, that's weird because you're going too. And he was like, dude, just go. And he talked me into it, and I ended up booking it, and I was very thankful for him talking me into that, because that was sort of like that was like a huge transition for me. It gave me the confidence to think that, you know, maybe I could potentially become a singer as well. And so while I was doing that, I also started taking voice lessons in the city, and just trying to train as much as possible.
Yeah, and grow, you know, and I think it's so important that the lesson learned there is that you have to show up for the audition. You never know. But
Yeah.
if you don't go, and then the answer, of course, is going to be no, right?
Yeah.
And so you at least have to
Very
try.
easy way to, it's a very easy way to self-sabotage by turning down auditions you don't think you're right for. It's like, no, they wouldn't have called you in if you if they didn't think you could be right. So just go and let them make the decision.
Yeah, and then continue to learn and grow and develop as you go. But at the same time, you've got to walk through that open door. Someone opens the door, walk through the door.
Yeah.
That's so important. Okay, so your evolution on Broadway is also fascinating to me. So let's talk through some of your Broadway shows.
Okay.
First, you had Times They Are Changing.
Mm-hmm.
Bounce So You Think You Can Dance. Movie, off Broadway, then.
And then I booked 9 to 5. And that was also booked. I booked it when it was going into previews. There was, I think, 2 weeks before previews started. And my Altar Boys contract off Broadway had a 9-day out. So I auditioned. They needed an immediate replacement. And I auditioned in the morning. They were like, cool, go to the theater and have Joe Mantello approve you. And then he approved me, and I started rehearsal 5 minutes later. They were like, just go step up on stage and just follow everybody around, because we're doing like a group tech situation. We're in the middle of tech. And then, you know, call your agents and let them know you booked it, and have them get you out of your other show. So for those next 10 days, I was rehearsing 9 to 5 from
9 to 5.
Yeah, from 9 to 5, sure.
It's kind of fun.
Like, actually, and doing Altar Boys in the evening. So it was like those 10 days were absolutely bananas. And then I had, I think, 3 days away from Altar Boys before previews on 9 to 5 started. So that was wild and crazy and bizarre. But then I ended up injuring myself in 9 to 5 a week after it opened. I just slipped and fell randomly on stage and dislocated my shoulder, and I was out for the rest of the run. I had, you know, torn a bunch of stuff or whatever. But that gave me the time to recover and reflect and all that. And I ended up spending the next like 9 months, you know, doing Pilates and trying to get back into dance shape and everything. And then the following summer, the So You Think You Can Dance All-Stars came around. And so I moved to Los Angeles to do that, which was super fun, amazing. It actually felt like more pressure than actually competing on the show, because now you're dancing with somebody who is competing. And if you mess up, that's going to get them kicked off the show. So you're not just messing up for yourself, you're messing up for somebody else. So
wow, I never thought about that in that perspective. I just thought, oh, that's fun. But yeah, it's an additional layer of stress and pressure. Yes.
Yeah, it felt like so much pressure. But it was good. It was an amazing season. And then I ended up going on tour with West Side Story. And then that was an amazing experience. I only did that for about 3.5 months. That was a crazy one. That was, I was in LA in like August, September, after So You Think had finished, wondering like, God, what am I doing? Cause like, I didn't feel at home in Los Angeles, and I was just getting like sad. So I was like, let me book a week-long trip, go back and visit my friends in New York, and just like sort of reassess. And in that week, someone in the West Side Story cast, they were in their final week of rehearsal and doing like runs of the show, had injured his leg, like torn a calf or something crazy like that. And my agents called me and they're like, hey, you're in New York, yeah? And I was like, I am. They're like, West Side Story needs someone to go out on tour. Can you go in and meet with the director and choreographer? And I was like, okay, sure. When do they need somebody? They're like, well, they need to meet you today.
Your life is
I was like, okay.
on stage now.
Honestly, pretty much.
Everything.
And then so I go in and meet them, and they were all flying to, they're going to Tech in Detroit. I think they were leaving the next day, and they're like, cool, you're hired, fly to Detroit. And so there I am with like my 1 week of vacation luggage being like, I guess I'm flying to Detroit to start a new show. And I learned the show from the choreographer and the associate choreographer in the lobby of the theater as they were teching the show. And then my first, and that was a 5 or 6 day process. I just learning all of Jerome Robbins' choreography.
Yeah, 3-hour show.
Yes, yeah. 6 days on the carpet with stairs somewhere and like trying to move around railings and poles. Yeah, you learn the show, sure. Go to the show for an audience in 6 days. And I did. So I got to do that tour for 3.5 months until the guy came back from injury. And then I was back out in Los Angeles and being like, cool, what do I do now? I ended up doing Bring It On, the musical.
That's where I was. I was like, you're missing Bring It On. But okay. So I didn't know where it fit in the timeline in your own lineage. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think Bring It On came in next, and we did that on tour. And I got to, I was a principal character in the show, which was like absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that was a huge breakthrough for you too, because you got a speaking role, you got to sing. I mean, that was different than ensemble dancer again.
Yeah. It was, but I also got to like tumble and learn how to cheerlead and all that stuff. So it was like very physically demanding and exciting too. Yeah, that was amazing. And then the tour ended up transferring to Broadway it transferred for 3 months, and then we got extended another 3 months.
So after Bring It On, what was your next Broadway show?
Cinderella.
That's it. Yeah. And then from Cinderella, you jumped to?
I did Tuck Everlasting Out of Town.
Okay.
In Atlanta. And then I came back in like March, and then in April, I auditioned for Hamilton because they were going to be transferring from off-Broadway uptown to Broadway. And they needed an additional male swing and female swing. And I was like, yeah, sure. I hear that show is pretty cool.
That show sounds interesting.
I heard Busta Rhymes saw the show. That's neat. Madonna. Yeah, I auditioned for that show, and the audition was, crazy thing is, so the same person who cast Hamilton, it was from Bernie Telsey's office. The same person who cast Hamilton also cast Tuck Everlasting. And as I'm walking into the room for the dance call for Hamilton, this casting director pulls me aside and says, have fun in there. That's awesome. But just know that Tuck got greenlit for Broadway. So if you book this, make sure you have an out. And I was like, awesome. So I just booked a Broadway show. Cool. All right, let me go in there. Let me go in there and dance and like try to book another one. And that dance call lasted like, I want to say like 4 hours. We learned like 3, 4, or 5 different numbers from the show, segments of numbers and stuff. And I just remember dripping in sweat. And so I ended up doing swinging Hamilton, and that experience was amazing. I just swung for a Broadway show for the first time at Cinderella. And so I had like sort of gotten down like, you know, how to take notes and like how to learn 8 different people's parts and like keep them straight ish. And so I had to learn the show from sitting in a chair in the rehearsal room and just watching. And they were just essentially transferring from off Broadway to Broadway. They maybe changed like 4 numbers total. And so everything else was just, when they were doing things in rehearsal, they were just running numbers. And so I'd be like, oh my God, I don't even know where to start, because they weren't like breaking steps down or doing anything. So I would like, I learned the show from just like watching. And then when we moved into the theater, I would come in like an hour to hour and a half early and just like work on what I saw the day before with one of the dance captains. And I'd be like, how do you do that step? I don't understand what that step is. And I would have it on video from, you know, recording from the balcony and be like, oh, this is this step. And that's kind of how I had to learn the show. And then my first time going on in the show, somebody had injured their knee. It was probably about a week after opening. Somebody had injured their knee in the first act, and the other swing was already on because he had done the show off Broadway, so he was comfortable in all the roles. So they threw him on first for somebody else, and then this guy hurt his knee in the first act, and they're like, "Hey, do you know this track?" And I was like, "I have notes for the track. I never had rehearsal for the track." And they're like, "Put on the costume, put on the mic, go." And I was like,
again, thrown into the fire.
man, that was crazy. So I had like 20 pages of notes for this for each track, but for this one track. And I asked both the female swings who were not on. One of them was also the associate choreographer and the dance captain. And they stood on each side of the stage with the paper in hand, finding me for every exit. And then they also had my laptop on off stage. And they would like have the video queued up to like what I would have to do next. And so I'd like peek at the notes, and my notes were like things that only I would understand, like bold meant something, asterisk meant something else. And
yeah, your own kind of shorthand,
entrances
your own language. Yeah.
But these notes ended up being like kind of the start of like the Hamilton Bible that they use for everything now.
Oh, awesome.
It was just like my shorthand became the shorthand that they use, which is kind of cool.
Kind of cool.
But they had like the video queued up of like what I needed to do next. So I would like click it and like scrub it and fast forward it and just like sort of watch like the person like run around the stage and do this. And then in your brain, you have to reverse that because you're on stage doing that. You're not watching it. So then you're like, cool. So I need to do this, and this, and then move this prop and then exit out this swing. And then I have a 30-second break where I can study the next section. And so that was a crazy experience. And I had to cover 6 roles in that show, which was crazy and wild, but again, it's something it gave me, once you don't know swinging until you have to swing. And like, it's like, you can never disrespect a swing or an understudy because they have the hardest jobs.
I agree. I would say it takes a very special talent to be a swing, to cover all of these different roles. And in an instant, in a moment's notice, hey, we need you to jump on for this track, and then change gears and just do it.
Yeah.
And I have so much respect. And I'm sure it was a great learning process as well, but so much respect from.
Yes, I learned that I never want to swing again.
I understand.
Yeah, I mean, it is stressful.
Well, and I think what's really fascinating that before we start kind of coming to the close here, I want to talk a little bit about your dance career and shifting over to one of the most famous roles in musical theater history, which is the King.
Yeah.
I mean, I came to see Hamilton, of course, see you in the show. Amazing. The King comes out, steals the entire show. The entire, for me. For me. I mean, I love the show. I think it's great. He comes out, and of course, you know my personality and I just loved it. Can't wait to see you do it. But how did you transition? I mean, as this fierce dancer, a Broadway dancer, the go-to dancer, the guy we need you to go on stage. Hey, by the way, you're going to book 2 Broadway shows. How did you go from the dancer guy, right, to the king? There's no dancing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think that is absolutely just beyond impressive. Beyond impressive. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. While I was doing, I swung Hamilton, and then I left Hamilton to do Tuck Everlasting, and then Tuck Everlasting closed, you know, after a month, like most of my Broadway shows. And then a couple days later, a track opened up at Hamilton, and it was an on-stage everyday track thing, and they hired me for that. And so I ended up doing that track for the next 3 years, and they had also been like, you can understudy the king. You can do it. We'll hardly ever rehearse you, but just you can understudy it. And they were like, good boy. And I was like, okay, cool. So I'm understudy? They're like, sure. And during that like 3-year, 2.5-year span of doing the same track every night, ensemble track, you know, your vocals are blended throughout the entire show. You know, there's a couple solos or whatever, but your vocals are blended. So I started taking lessons with a new voice teacher, and there was all these new different like techniques and feelings and, you know, openings and all these things. And I was like, great. I work with you on a Wednesday between shows, and then, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I can apply what I'm learning in my voice lessons and like sort of try it out on stage and know that if I fail, it's sort of blended within. And I'm not gonna do anything crazy, but it's just like feeling out new things. And this track was also the tenor ensemble track. So I really had to figure out how to do it in a healthy way 8 times a week. And this voice teacher helped me do that. And I got to try it without the pressure of singing alone on stage. I got to try it, you know, while my voice is blended with the ensemble every night. And so, you know, I studied voice with this teacher either 2, 3, or 4 times a month for about 3 years. And that helped me transition into playing the king. There were 3 people who understudied the king in New York. And at one point the king was going to be out for 3 weeks. So they gave us each a week. And so I got to do it for an entire week, and it was amazing. And they like put us in the playbill as the king. And so it was like, cool. I played the king on Broadway, and it was like billed that way. And that's neat. And then the following week I had emailed the associate director and the director about like, you know, I would love to take over for this role at any point, on whether on tour or in New York or wherever. And they were like, cool. Yeah, sure, bud. And and I was like, kind of like, yeah, that's kind of a reach, but sure. You know, I have, you know, the next 20 years to be able to play this role.
Well, and also trying to break out of the label and category you've been in is not easy.
No, it's, you have to.
And you're a valuable asset in that role. So at the same time, to let go of you, to allow you another opportunity, leaves a void in the ensemble with the dance and, you know, the role you were playing.
Coverage,
so, you know, there's two sides to that. Yeah.
But I ended up having to audition for I auditioned for the associates, the associate music director and the associate director. And there was a camera who they were like, this is the director, he's going to watch it later. And I was like, Sure, I bet. So I auditioned for it the following week after I had just done it 8 times in a row where they could have just, watched. And then it just goes like radio silent for like 6 months. And I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm here. I have my job. This is awesome. If that ever happens, it happens. And then randomly 6 months later, I think I get a call from my agent who I just started working with. And they were like, do you have interest in playing King George on tour? And I was like, yes. And they were shocked because they also knew me. These new agents who I was working with knew me as like, an ensemble dancer, singer person. And they have, they rep some like pretty big names and all that sort of stuff. And like people who definitely are right for King George and like all this stuff. And they like just can't get these people auditions and stuff. And then they were like, cool, well, you're going to go out on tour as King George. This is crazy. And I was like, this is awesome.
What an incredible opportunity. And
yeah, it's amazing.
Then COVID happened, but
Yeah.
it'll come back.
Yeah. I got to do it for 7 months.
Exactly.
And they still want us all back. So as soon as things open, things will be open.
I'm so proud of you. And what an opportunity for them to open that door for you as well. I mean, just kudos to the creative team for granting you that opportunity to continue to grow in the industry.
Yeah.
Not I don't want to say hold you back, but keep you in your safety zone, I guess, like in your comfort zone. So I think that's admirable as well. But I'm sitting here thinking about all of these amazing things that you've done. I can't imagine what goes on in your head because I know you, so it's different. It's like, what's next? What's next? I want to learn more. I want to learn more. And I love that about you. For all of our listeners and our young aspiring hopefuls, right? All the dream chasers, what kind of advice do you have for them? And I would put COVID aside because I do think it's a little bit of a different situation right now. We are going to get back. The world is going to open again. It's going to look different, but we're going to be okay. But what kind of advice do you have for someone that wants to chase this dream?
I would say if you're in middle school or high school right now, get as much training as you can. Be absolutely incredible at one thing, but then also be amazing at everything else you want to be amazing at, but also be a human, have hobbies and do your stuff. But train as much as you can before you have to move to a big city, because the training in your city is going to be a lot more financially affordable than training in New York. You train in New York, you have a voice lesson, it's at minimum $200 an hour. Like learn from your chorus teacher, learn from your dance teachers and everything like that. Like learn from them, do as much as you can, ask as many questions as you can.
Mr. NeilHaskell,
Kiesha.
I'm so proud of you. I admire you. I respect you. I'm in awe. I always knew you'd be a superstar, but what I love the most is that you have the biggest heart and you are a just beautiful human being. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're the best. This is going to be amazing. And thank you for sharing your experience. I think that it's going to be quite valuable for all of our listeners, and certainly they will be inspired. Certainly. So thank you. And please take care of yourself, okay?
I will. You too.
All right. Thank you. Take care.